everyone. Hello, hello. I hope you can all hear me. We have a terrific panel discussion that we're going to be going to. We're going to hear from 5 women who are at the top of the advertising field, and they're going to talk about their tips for success, and then we're going to do a little bit of a moderated discussion afterward about exactly what those tips mean and how they made it to the top. So I am very pleased to introduce them all. First, Lori Hiltz. She is CEO of Havas Media North America. Lori? Also, Cindy Stockwell. She's Executive Vice President and Chief Media Officer of Hill Holiday. Cindy? Barbara Goose is President of Digitas LBI offices in Boston and Detroit. Barbara? Kristen Cavallo, newly chosen President of Mullen. And Lisa Unsworth, who is CMO of Arnold Worldwide. So as I said, each woman will get 5 minutes to share a bit of information about herself and her insights for success. And Lori is going to start. Lori?
Right, so good afternoon. I might be the only person in the room here that survived the earthquake. I was in LA on Monday, so I feel privileged to be here. And I want to say thank you to Kathy for this incredible, I've never experienced this, so kudos, amazing. And Jim, your sponsorship and your sportsmanship today in being grilled up at the microphone, I'm just going to switch insurance companies tomorrow, okay? So I know I have 5 minutes and I've used 15 seconds, so let me tell you that I believe that being a CEO, number one, is a privilege, and there are 27 words that come to mind if I'm going to equate it to the alphabet, so I have less than 5 minutes, I'm going to go. The first thing of being an effective leader is ask. Ask questions, ask yourself, ask others. Be brave. It is, guys, this is all taking chances and just do it, right? Collaborate, and I don't mean that in saying of shaking hands and being nice to my colleagues sitting here, but reach out. If I can help each other, that's what you do in business, it goes a long way, right? Delegate, push down, push deep into the organization. It will free you and free your mind. Exercise, it is the most important thing. Exercise your mind, your soul, your body, and exercise your relationships. Make them work for you. Be fiscal, right? Focus on your finances, not just your company's finances, your finances. My dear friend and colleague and client, Danuta, is sitting to my left, right? That company is successful because they care about financial integrity, and you should too, right? Be generous. Be generous with your time, your talent, and your money. That's why it's given to you. Be happy. We heard Natalie today. I already downloaded the app. I feel happier. I wrote something down, right? But be happy with humility. Not everyone can share your joy and share your passion for that very moment. And I mean that really, especially when you're managing people, right? Integrity of the influencer, for the letter I. The people you listen to and the people you act upon influence you greatly. Make sure there's integrity to what you're imitating. Joy, what else can I tell you? But it is one of the most fabulous emotions on our planet. Be kind, I already talked a little bit about that. Listen, and I want to tell you this about listening is hearing with intention. Listen to what people say to you. 95% of my job is listening to 800 plus employees and tell me it takes a lot of energy to listen, right? Mentor. It is a privilege to mentor. I've never forgotten the people that have given me a chance or an opportunity. Be nice. I'm telling you guys, it takes effort, but do it. I wanted to strangle the front desk clerk today at the Hilton. He's still alive. I was nice, right? Opportunities, do them all. It's all about the possibilities. Passion for the letter P, right? Give it all, like percolate it up, ladies. You too, Jim. Question. Never stop questioning for the letter Q. Respect. These fine women to my right are amazing. I respect all of them, and I feel privileged to be sitting with you right now. Sleep, can't get enough. Not sex, sleep. Sleep, 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 sleep. That's why there was Sleeping Beauty, right? And I wrote this down, right? It is the consciousness of the world suspended. That means all this crap goes away for a couple hours, but sleep. Trust first in yourself and trust in others. It is freeing. Understanding takes listening and patience, what I've already talked about. I volunteer. I volunteer of my time, my treasure, and most importantly, of all of our resources, not just of Havas Media, but of our employees that can do better in the world, right? I wrote this for the letter W before I heard the talk this morning with Ellen and Christy and Diane and now Farah about write a letter. Havas Media employees will tell you that I make them write letters, not emails, not a phone call, write a letter. We spend thousands of dollars in stationery and stamps. It works. It changes relationships. The letter X, hey, double X, chromosomes, ladies. That's it, right? Y for youth, right? Freshness and vitality. They are the digital pipeline for our future. And finally, zest, right? Give it everything you got every single day, and it'll take you far. I have 30 seconds left.
You did
so I'm just going to pass the torch so we can chat it up, right?
There we go. Awesome. Okay, next is Cindy. Cindy, stuck.
So Lori gave you 26 things. I'm going to give you 3. So I'm going to go minimalist on you. My 3 things are really, and I'll talk about each one of them just a little bit, that people matter, that you should say yes, but sometimes you have to say yes, but, or yes, and that you should be present. Okay, so when I talk about people mattering, I mean that you're going to have lots of opportunities in your life. I've had lots of opportunities in my life. Some of them seem like great opportunities on paper, but ultimately, if the people that you're surrounding yourself with aren't the people that you're going to learn from, that you're going to love to spend your time with, that you're going to find happiness with, that opportunity is not going to really matter. It's not going to help you grow. It's not going to help you expand. On the other hand, are you somebody that you value the people around you, and are they people that matter to you? Because are you a mentor? Are you giving back? You talked about volunteering, time and passion and resources. People matter. You matter, and the people who you surround yourself with matter. The second is about saying yes. I've had lots of opportunities in my life. People have asked me to do things. I try to say yes as often as I can, to my kids as well. But oftentimes it says, yes, but. Yes, but this is what I need in order to make sure that this opportunity is successful. Yes, and I need you to do this if I'm going to do that. It works as a parent, and it works as a mentor and an employee. But it also gives you lots of new opportunities in your life. If you say no a lot, you're not going to keep growing, you're not going to learn, you're not going to expand, and you're not going to kind of go forward in your career. And then the last one is be present. I can't tell you the number of meetings I'm in where people bring laptops with them. You're there to participate in the meeting. You were invited because somebody thought that you could give something to that meeting. If you're there on your laptop, you're not giving to that meeting, and you're actually not giving respect to the people around you. So back to that first one, that people matter. If you're invited to the meeting and you are going to go to that meeting, be present. Same thing with your family, with your friends. If you are with people, be present with those people, because back to the beginning, people matter. So thank you.
Yeah, right. And she did it. Okay, next we'll hear from Barbara.
Very good. I'm learning a lot from my fellow colleagues, and my kids would definitely like Cindy better. The yes thing, I'm learning. I'll try that. Okay, so I lead up the Boston and Detroit offices for Digitas LBI. It's about 800 people, a whole range of clients, GM, P&G, Dunkin' Donuts, Harley, Lenovo, all kinds of stuff. And I come home to a husband, 2 boys, and 2 dogs. Most days they're all there, and an au pair. But we'll talk more about how it kind of all fits together. So I do have 5 tips, and we'll go through them and try to share a bit of a story for each along the way. So my first tip is about owning your calendar. And what I mean by this is, if you let people, I'm sure you all experience this, your calendar will fill up with meetings, with people needing you to be places, I often meet people at work during the day and they'll say, I'm triple booked right now, so I'm gonna come here for 10 minutes and then I'm going to the next place. Anyway, that doesn't work. It's all about being present. You gotta pick your spots and you gotta also own your time and make sure you have time for yourself. And what I remember actually is when I came back from having my second child, who's now 9, I wasn't feeling very good about myself. I hadn't lost the weight, and I looked up to my boss at the time, and it was Laura Lang, and she was in great shape. And I said, oh my God, how do you do it? You have an even busier schedule than I do. And she said, you know what? I just stopped accepting meetings before 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock or whatever it was. And she said, I work out every morning. She said, no, I don't really work out every morning. Of course, I have breakfast meetings, I have other things. But if I tell myself that that's my time and I own it, it's gonna happen 3 or 4 times a week, and I do it. And since then, I started working out much more often. I build it into my schedule. Again, it doesn't happen every day, but I make it a priority and I put myself first, and I know that exercising, which is on your list, right, somewhere in this 26, is super important, and it did make me more productive and feel better about myself. So take a look at that calendar. What can you cross out? Just put hold times on. Things like that are awesome. My second tip is all about delegating, but what I mean by that is really surrounding yourself by awesome people. I think that the person who's helping me, the people who help me at work and the people who help me at home should be better than I am at the things they're doing. And if that can be true, then I know everything's good at home with my kids, and I know things are going to be awesome at work. I want people to challenge me. I say it to people all the time. I said actually to someone today in a review, I said, please scare me. I said, come and tell me something that I would never think to do. And I try to find people who are willing to take those risks. So surround yourself with those great, great people. My third tip is about not being afraid to combine home and work. I think that there's some level of blur that happens when you're really busy, when you have a job that you love, and when you have obviously a family that you love and want to spend time with. I knew this was true when my son Teddy, the younger one who's 9, said to me, Mom, I know what I want to do for my birthday this year. I said, oh, okay, laser tag, or where are we going this year? That horrible water park. Where are we going? And he said, no, I want to have my party at Digitas. And I said, that's awesome, but no way. But I should have said yes, and you and one friend, and next time. But I do look to incorporate my family in events wherever I can. My kids know their way around the office, and they do love to visit. And I think them understanding where I work and who the people are that I work with helps them to understand why I'm not around at times. My fourth tip is about seeking out mentors. And this is a little bit different than surrounding yourself with people who are awesome. Mentors should be awesome, but they should be people who are really going to push you. One of my mentors along the way was my boss before he was my boss, which kind of made it a little awkward when he became my boss. But he, gave me great advice. He pushed me and told me to do things that I wouldn't naturally have done. Find those people that you have connections with, that you feel comfortable with, and that will push you to do things you wouldn't have done before. I have an amazing partner at work, my creative partner, who also pushes me and tells me the truth. There are days that he says, you are a complete jerk. And he said, let me tell you why. And then hopefully the next time I learn and it's better. So find those mentors that you trust and that are going to give you the truth. The last one, and this is hopefully an easy one for you guys, is don't just do email. Don't sit behind your desk. Get out and walk the halls. It's similar to Cindy's, about being present, but talk to people, have conversations, have live meetings, work things through with people. Sometimes I learn more from spending an hour walking the halls than I would sitting and answering 100 emails. So I strongly encourage you all to do that, and thanks for your patience and waiting for all of us to complete the day today.
All right. Kristen.
Hi, thank you. All right, my 5, and they're already starting to feel a little redundant. My first one, similar to Barbara's, pick a boss, not an agency. In every case, every time I've gone to a different agency, I have spent more time prioritizing the person I'm going to report to instead of the reputation of the agency. I think reputations of agencies are fleeting, even though I know it's partly my job to sustain our reputation. But really, the person who you report to every day is going to affect your day-to-day, and you need to make sure that that person thinks you're amazing and thinks that you can rock the world. Second, ask for what you need. This is the hardest advice I can give, but I think there's no one else just like you. And so you need to figure out what are the things that you need in order to be your best self at work and be bullish and selfish about it. So at Martin, when I started the Martin Agency, I was a single mom. The thing that kept me up most at night was how to provide for my son. I think they knew that, and so one year they gave me, instead of a bonus, they gave me a Virginia prepaid education plan. It required that I stayed at the agency for 5 years, but if I did, then his college tuition was paid for. It wasn't the money, it wasn't even the time, it was the fact that they took the stress off my plate. When I came to Mullen, I asked to still live in Virginia. I actually turned the job down because I didn't want to move, didn't want to take my son out of high school. They came back and said, what would it take? I said, well, I can come up 2 nights a week, 3 days, and then work 2 days a week from home. 5 nights a week, I need to be at home tucking my daughter into bed. I thought for sure they're going to say no. They said yes. And then really your job is to make sure, because it's mostly other women that will hate you, make sure that you work so hard that you don't feel entitled or that you don't come off as entitled, but you'll get it. Don't let a moment sideline you. When I was a planner at the Martin Agency for 7 years, the new business job opened up, I wanted to go for it. But I wasn't a traditional new business person. Most of them are often funded or come out of the account management department. They have Rolodexes, they know tons of people. I actually don't really like people I don't know. And so it's really not conducive to new business. But I really wanted that job, and I thought that our mistake, the reason we had lost so many pitches the year before was not because we weren't good at what we did, it's because we went after the wrong people. And we didn't know ourselves, and I thought what we needed was a planner for the agency. And so I went after the job, interviewed against 42 other candidates. I got the job. I was so excited. I felt victorious. I felt like it earned it. When I got the job, they told me the reason I got the job was because I was the cheapest, because I was already on the payroll, and that I was not their first candidate. I cried the whole way down the elevator, called my husband bawling, and he said, well, the good news is there's nowhere to go but up. And you need to stop crying and do the job. And I did it, and I had it for 6 years, and we doubled the size of the agency during that time. So I picked up, acted like a big girl and did the job. Fourth, manage your brand and go after what you want. I think the client side does a much better job of having women often representing the agency in new business presentations. Very often when I go to a pitch, more than half of the client side representation will be female. That's not the same case on the agency side. I think agency life is hard for women when they get kids and you have to juggle a lot of things and choices are made. And I don't fault anybody for the choices they make. We're just not as good about that kind of representation on our side. And there was a time I got invited to be in a new business pitch because, quote unquote, a creative director said we needed boobs in a room. And I was totally offended, but then realized this was also a huge opportunity. And so I went into that pitch, and by the end of it, they recognized that I had brains. They may still have liked the boobs, and I tend to think I have a fabulous set of C cups, but I was determined that they were going to invite me back the next time because I was really good at what I did. And they did, and I became a very frequent new business presenter, and then now I train people to be the intelligence in the room, regardless if they have boobs or not. And last, give your leadership the benefit of the doubt. You often hear that women get paid less than men, and that historically in companies, women probably make less than men, and that might be true. The story I was going to tell here is that Joe Grimaldi, the chairman of Mullen, actually had HR do a survey, or had HR do an analysis rather, and determine where the salaries were out of whack. And he called me and said, hey, one of your employees isn't getting paid enough. And I was like, what? She's happy. She's totally fine. She hasn't asked for more money. And he said, you need to pay her more because we're not going to be that kind of company. And I remember I went to sleep that night. I gave her a raise on the spot. She never asked for why. I didn't tell her why. But the point was I went to bed that night and I thought, if he's doing that for her, then it means I'm fairly paid. And he taught me something really valuable that day, which is you don't have to wait to do the right thing. You just need to do the right thing, and then people will reward you with their loyalty. I have 1 second. Okay, I'm done.
All right, Lisa.
I must confess I have this uncomfortable desire to just look down at your Didn't you want to just look, but I couldn't, of course, look because I'm sitting right next to her. But anyway, I I've known her for a really long time. She's always had good brains and good boobs. So anyway, I'm Lisa Unsworth. I wear three important titles in my life. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Arnold. I'm Fiona's mom. She's 16 and a half. And I am Bob's wife and best friend. So those are the three jobs that I have. And I have 5 tips for you as well, and many of the themes are similar. Some are different though. So the first tip that I have for you is to trust your gut. We all march through our careers, learning to be analytical and consider the information and the data. And I just want to tell you that after you do all of that, I have found that really one of the most valuable tools that I have is my own internal compass. And don't ever be afraid to sort of put the facts and the data and everyone else's opinion aside and trust your own compass, because if you listen to it, I find it can really guide you in very, very marvelous ways. The second tip that I have is almost like a companion piece to that, and it's to be decisive. So great leadership really requires that you are comfortable making decisions, moving things forward, charting a course, even when you're really not sure what to do. So I would just say have confidence in yourself. I mean, I've learned over time that more times than not, the decisions that I make are the right ones, even if I'm not quite sure at the moment. I find making a decision is really the right thing to do. And a lot of times, if you make the wrong one, it's actually not that hard to go back and fix it. So I think being decisive, moving things forward is probably one of the most important things you can do for effective leadership. Point number 3, this is something that I have followed my entire career. And I have watched very successful people who actually don't follow this. So you take it for what it's worth. It's really served me well. And that is not making it about yourself. So I have found in my career, I have always moved forward really, really quickly by making it all about either the person who I report to, my boss, or making it all about my client. And it's never actually been something that anyone told me. It's just sort of been my natural swing. Maybe I'm a pleaser, but I've always, really just, always wanted the person who I work for to be supremely confident that I have everything covered, and all the other things that they haven't thought about, I've thought about. And I've always wanted my clients to really view me as just the ultimate partner, someone that they always know that they can count on as well. And I've just found that rather than worrying about jockeying for, positions or office politics, that, just sort of focusing on the task at hand is really the best way to get momentum. At least it's been that way for me. Point number 4 is a hard one to live by, but I really encourage you to think about it, and that is change is really good for the soul. So I say that having worked at Arnold for a really long time. But I actually did leave Arnold for about 2 years. I started my career in New York, and I moved up here probably mid-career, and I've been at Arnold kind of on and off throughout my time in Boston. But I left Arnold, for those of you who know me, I left Arnold for about 2 years to actually run the ad club, right before Kathy. And when I left, people just thought I was crazy. I was a managing partner at Arnold, and I had a good account, and we were winning awards, and I had a good income. And at that time of my life, I needed a change. I needed to do something different. And it was so invigorating to do something different. It was scary. It took a lot of courage. I mean, when you're in a prestigious position, it becomes a little bit a part of who you are. And so stepping out of that and kind of, re-examining who you are, redefining who you are in some ways, is really good for you. It forces you to be resourceful. It forces you to think about what's really important. It gives you an opportunity to think about the things that you're good at. And ultimately, I came back to Arnold. I was saying to Deb, when I was telling her the story, I had no intention of actually ever going back to Arnold. And my second year at the ad club, Ed Eskandarian decided I had to come back, and he kept on offering me all different kinds of jobs. And I didn't want to go back and be an account person. I wasn't in a place in my life where I felt I could be a president of an office, because I just felt like I had too many personal obligations. And at that time, the job of CMO at agencies was a new position. It was something that client organizations had, but agency brands didn't have CMOs. And so they created this job of CMO for me. And the vast majority of what I spend my time on, besides the Arnold brand, is business development, which I love. And so it's worked out very well. And the last point that I would make to you is something I really struggled with how to talk about, because I don't want it to give you a negative impression of me. But after talking with Deb about some of the themes, I've decided that you're probably all think about this, struggle with this a little bit too. And the principle is really this idea of investing in yourself. I actually literally mean that financially. So I spend an awful lot of time at work. And I would tell you that my family is really important to me, my child, my husband, my mother, my sister. Taking care of myself is really important to me. It is really hard to do all of the things that are important to you. So I have a cleaning lady. My daughter's 16 and a half, but I still have a nanny because she takes care of the dog, and she does, the grocery shopping, and she buys, Christmas gifts for extended family members. When my husband and I were thinking about where we wanted to live, we decided to live in a suburb that was closer to Boston and more expensive. Even though we got a smaller house, we just both felt like we didn't want to have to spend a lot of time commuting. I go on really nice vacations because I'm tired and I need them. And when I come back, I'm really rejuvenated. But all of these things, which frankly cost money, let me be so much better at everything that I do. They let me be a better mother. They let me be a better wife. They let me be so much better at my job. I don't have to go grocery shopping on Saturday morning. I can wake up and do a little bit of work before everyone in the house is awake. So anyway, don't be selfish about investing in yourself. My husband and I have always had this as thankfully we share this as a strategy in a way of looking at things. And I could tell you that if I was going to measure ROI, like what I invest versus what I've gotten back, both financially as well as just emotionally, I've 10 to 1. I have a really good ROI. So anyway, those are my tips.
All right, great. Well, I get to ask you guys some questions now, and I think I'd like to follow up on that, invest in yourself and helping you delegate. Is it cleaning ladies, nannies, au pairs? Is it your husband staying home? Is it an assistant who knows not to book you for 3 meetings in one day because you have an obligation at night? What is sort of the key way that you do invest in yourself so labor is divided so you don't go crazy, right? So you can get to the top. Well, if you could articulate that, Lori, what would you say? What was the key there in terms of dividing things up so you were able to succeed?
I'll start at the top and end at the bottom, right? I'm not afraid to ask for help when I can't figure it out. So I've got what I would call some coaches, right, across a whole plethora of industries. And, having been in the business for a while, you collect, I call kind of a wagon full of stuff. So I reach out to help my head. I work on my heart. I talked a little bit about volunteering and being active in the things that are important to me, my family, my faith. And then on my feet, I talked about exercising, right? I have a really good podiatrist, and I don't buy cheap shoes. And I'm just going to say that matters. I mean, I'm on the road. I actually got a gift from the CMO of Delta Airlines. I was on 143 air segments in their airline last year. They like me as a customer, right? But I like the fact that they recognize that my feet, the relationship and all that. My point of this is that, it is to keep all of this centered and to do our jobs. That's why we're sitting here today, because the commonality of the 5 of us sitting up here, we lead people and we lead organizations. That organization is only as good as the top. They also say, right, that the fish smells from the head, right? So when it's bad, fix it and make it good. But, I'm not afraid. I agree with you, Lisa, wholeheartedly about investment.
Yeah. Cindy, how about you? You've got kids at home and you've got to juggle all that. How do you do it?
Well, I have a stay-at-home husband, which is helpful. Although I have to tell you, stay-at-home husbands don't do as much as stay-at-home moms do. So it's very true, very true. I also have a cleaning lady, and we would not be able to survive without her. My mother-in-law, who lives nearby, is amazing. So that helps at home. And I think you have to have that. You can't do everything, and you have to decide where your priorities are. And so my priorities when I'm home is spending time with my husband and my kids and not cleaning my house and doing grocery shopping and doing laundry and all of that. At work, I have probably the most amazing assistant in the history of assistants. And I share her with some other people, but she does manage the calendar and she just gets things done, so that's great. The people who report directly to me are all fabulous. A couple of them are here. And they are experts at what they do, and they are great with advice. They are great with keeping me real and making sure that I am able to do my job well while they're doing their job well. And then we made a decision similar to you we bought a house on a lake in Maine, and that is the place where I go and I can escape it all, and I don't have to do it just for a week and then go back to life. I can
So how often do you go?
I try to go every weekend in the summer. Yeah, so I don't make it all the time, but that's what I try to do because it's just away from everything. And I don't mind sitting there and doing emails because it's somewhere where I know my family's also happy, and we can invite our friends, and I can be surrounded by the people that matter.
Right. So find your thing, find your way of making it work, but everybody does it differently. Barbara, you mentioned a creative partner, right? So you have a creative partner who helps you at the office?
I think there's someone that's like your check-in person during the day. I'm having a good day, I'm having a bad day, this is happening, what are you feeling, how's it going? And we use each other certainly in that way. We both share a responsibility for leading the office and kind of share that joint pulse on how things are going. And so that helps tremendously. I couldn't agree more with what was offered in terms of the notion of help and investing. I love that you framed it as investing in yourself because I think that in order to stay sane, you do need a lot of help. And help is good. And for me, it's like as I had kids, each year, I think I added more and more help. So my kids started in daycare, and then I was like, well, I can't be the person at 5 o'clock. My husband works as well, and so someone else, I was like, I need a babysitter in addition to daycare, and then I don't know. I have a lot of help, but that doesn't mean I don't see my kids. It actually means the opposite. It means when I walk in the door, I don't have to cook dinner. I'm not doing the grocery shopping or the laundry. I can see my kids. And whether that's helping them with homework or engaging them in a conversation or playing a game before they go to bed, I feel lucky that I get that quality time. And I work hard to do that, and I do have an assistant that makes sure that works out as well. And we kind of have a deal where we say we strive for, expected 1 night away a week, 2 nights away, okay, that happens, but try to manage no more than that. And it is about making trade-offs. I somehow, right, you say yes, but I won't actually be there, but I'm not sure how that works. But it is about making choices, but having people in your life that help you and support you in those choices. And I would describe my husband as my best friend as well. So I feel fortunate to have someone who shares the responsibilities, but who understands, and even if you have to remind him what to do, he steps up. I'll just give you one example, then I'll stop talking. But so I'm the person every night that decides who makes dinner, but it's never me. So gives you a small taste.
Kristen.
I don't have a nanny or a babysitter, but the way that my work life works, I've been able to compartmentalize my life quite well. I don't look for balance at all. I look for joy. And when I'm home, I'm present. I am in the carpool line every morning and every afternoon. Everyone in my company knows that if there's a conference call, I'm in the carpool line. But so does my daughter. And so she knows, we have kind of hand signals, and she knows when she gets in the car sometimes to breathe before she speaks in case I'm on a conference call. But at work, I have specifically hired people that do not require babysitting. And they manage the department, and I just show up. And when I say they, I don't mean like a team of leaders. I mean all the way down to the newest member. They are a community, and they manage each other. They actually just went on a department outing the other day, rented a house in Maine, and didn't even invite any of us, actually. I'm pulling the photos off of Instagram where they're like, planner department outing, and I'm writing the other department leaders, and none of us, I don't even think we're invited. But it's great because they take care of each other, and that's really the most important thing. At home, my husband and I really do split everything 50-50. There are things he excels at, there are things I excel at. We don't excel at the same things. So there are things that I find super important, like the kids need to bathe. That's not as high on his list, but he is great and extremely patient at doing homework, where I am not. He cooks, I don't. He's a small business owner, so he works, he travels as well. When he travels, I stay home, and everyone at work knows that I do that. And, but I do have my parents are close by, they love our dog. They love our dog more than any of us, so they tend to watch the dog a lot. They'll babysit the dog. My mother-in-law is there, and we do ask for help. In fact, if there is Sarah Montague, is she here? Where are you? Okay, so Sarah I haven't seen in 16 years, but when I was a single mother, I'm so proud of you. So Sarah and I worked together at Arnold 16 years ago when I was a single mom, and I learned to ask for help at that moment, and she would come over and go grocery shopping with me because I didn't know how to carry my son and carry the groceries at the same time. And she would come watch him while I went downstairs to do laundry. And so I would say whatever it takes. I mean, absolutely whatever it takes. You need to build a system around you that works, and then you need to be not judgmental if anyone else's system is different than yours, because there is no one right way. There is only the way that works for your world, and you need to figure that out. And if your world is good and your people in it are good, then you can do pretty much anything.
Okay. Do you have more to add, Lisa, about dividing things up?
No, I would just say that people laugh at me when they meet my daughter, who's 16 and a half, and this very grown-up looking young lady, and then I introduce her nanny. Because really, I mean, she really has become really like a household assistant for us. And
does she live with you?
She doesn't live with us. She comes every day, or Monday through Friday, every day. And we thought long and hard at different points about, should we have her go half-time? Should we cut her back? And we just thought, this makes life so much easier, that even though we don't, if officially she's supposed to work 55 hours and some weeks she only works 35, so what? Like, it just makes life so much better for us. So I really agree with Kristen. Figuring out a system that works for you, I think is really important. I think that the operative word there is figuring it out. Like, living on the fly is really, it's a hard way to have a career. It's a hard thing to ask of the people around you, including your family. So whatever the system is, I think figuring out is what's important.
Has she been with you a long time?
Since my daughter was 2.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, a long time.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're very lucky then.
I am.
Yeah. But childcare is expensive for a lot of people, so a lot of people can't do it.
That's right.
Is she very expensive? I'm done. My kids are in their 20s.
So funny. It is expensive. It's one of those things that we have decided to invest in because it just makes life better for us.
Right. Kristen, what I'd like to ask you, you brought up something interesting. You said women are going to have to work harder, especially other women, to show other women that you weren't entitled to something. You actually earned what you got. Are women harder on other women, and does that make it difficult sometimes?
I have found that my biggest champions were usually men. I've worked for one woman and I didn't enjoy it, and since then I've worked always for men, and found them to be far bigger supporters, far bigger champions of me. Though I love and have more women in my department than men, and I love mentoring women. So I don't know. It's just for me, I don't find men to be as judgmental. I don't find them to. I don't think they think about us as much as we think they do. Where I think women probably do think about things a lot more and think about people a lot more. And so I think women can be hard. Wasn't it Madeleine Albright that said there's a special place in hell for mothers that don't help other mothers? I think women can sometimes feel like things aren't fair. And I don't think men walk around and stress about that.
So I wonder then, is it a standard that women set for themselves? Because it's not just in working with other women, right, and making sure that other women don't think that you're entitled to something that you're not. It may also be that women have a hard time in delegating or a hard time saying no, because we also are setting the standard in some ways for ourselves, right? So we're saying, is it something particular or specific to women?
I have a theory.
Okay.
My theory, I don't see what you think of this, but I think that there is a generational divide. I think that women who are a generation older than the women who are on this panel really had to fight and claw to climb the corporate ladder because they were women. And I think that my experience is that our generation is probably one of the first generations of women who moved ahead because they just did a good job. And there were more people who didn't really notice that they were women and just noticed that they were good at their jobs and let them motor along. But I think that the women a generation or two ahead of us weren't always very great partners to other women because people weren't great partners to them. And I think that I hope that changes with our generation. I feel like at Arnold, and actually wherever I go, I mean, I just feel a giant sisterhood with other women, no matter what their ages are. It makes me happy to see women advancing in their career. I feel like I understand that there are unique challenges that women face. I faced them, but mostly, really, what I'm interested in at work are people who are going to do a fantastic job. And for the most part, I feel like the rooms that I walk in, for the most part, really don't notice what people's genders are anymore. But I think that, so I hopefully it's getting easier, but I don't think it was that way necessarily for us.
I know, Deb, I think that with the advent of technology, I mean, I'll date myself a little bit, but when I got out of undergraduate school, I entered a department of 90 men, and there were no cell phones. IBM Lotus 123 was the rage, and I worked on the Chevrolet account, the largest advertising account on the planet, and literally it was the time when cable TV was erupting, and I'm just going to say that women at that point became part of the vocabulary and became part of the currency and culture. So it was really something that I feel that, the impact of technology and the impact of acceptance of different ways of lives and culture helped, and especially in a business where we make nothing tangible here, right? All of our brains and, to pay respect, our breasts are sitting here, right? But to be fair, that was really something that differentiated candidates in the business because it really was about the brains and the chutzpah to get around. But technology definitely had an impact on the emergence of women in business and opportunities that existed.
Right.
And as I mentioned, I came back from the 4As, and it was really funny because there was a couple comments and a couple tweets about the lack of women leaders. Still in an industry that looks pretty predictive, right, in who you're going to see on stage. So this is not what was on stage, let me tell you. So a ways to go.
Still a ways to go. Well, we have 4 minutes, unfortunately. So, and I would like to talk about the future and end with the future. And what do you say to young women coming up now? How is it different for them? You're not going to have much time either. How is it different from them than it was for you? And what's your bit of advice about how they can juggle it or maybe learn from a mistake that you made? Can I start with you, Lori?
I'm just going to say, take a chance. And I started with the letter A, ask a lot of questions. That makes a difference. Never, I know it sounds absolutely corny, but you just got to see it. You got to believe it, right? And go for it. And that's my advice. People come in and say, where should I go? I'm like, I don't know, you tell me. You tell me, where do you want to go, right? And that's part of the conversation. I got to be careful because I got employees sitting here to my left, right?
Cindy?
Yeah, I'd say that I think you have to prioritize. You have to decide what your priorities are going to be. And, if your priorities are going to be to, be the mom who is, at home often with her kids, that's a fine priority. But be true to yourself and be honest with yourself. And if you want to be, somebody who is running a company or, you can still be a good mom and do that, but you have to decide how you're going to prioritize things.
But is it almost harder for young women today who look around and say, well, they did it, they made it to the top, and maybe they made it to the top and brought homemade chocolate chip cookies to everything and went to PTA meetings and did all that, and so that's what I need to do too, and are they imposing a more, a difficult standard on themselves?
I don't think that, I think the people out here today who are sort of the future generations or the future leaders, I don't think that they have rose-colored glasses on. I really don't. I think that they understand that that none of us were those moms. That we were the moms who, like, I decide which of my kids' events I'm going to go to. I can't go to every single one of them. So which ones are important? And that's what you have to do. Just like which things can I miss at work in order to go to those things. You have to make choices, and you have to prioritize, and you have to be true to yourself, and you have to be true to your job and your family and all of that. But you know yourself, you know your place of employment, you know your clients, and you just have to, you have to be honest and you have to be true, both to yourself and to everybody around you. And I think and I think people today get that even more. I really do. I think that they're very savvy, and I think that hopefully they're watching all of us and saying, they are able to do things, but they are also making choices because we're honest about it.
I think if you're really good at what you do, you set the terms. And like you tell people, I need to leave every day at 5 o'clock, or I'm going to come in early, or I'm going to do this, but I will get the job done. And then show them you can get the job done, on your terms. And, it's interesting. I missed one performance, so I don't know how many there have been. There have been a lot. So my oldest is 12. I missed one, and I remember that I missed that one. And I made a commitment then that I would never miss maybe not the little ones, but the you're supposed to be there, the holiday extravaganza kind of things, when they dress up and stuff. So I just block out, and I'm there. And I actually make it a huge priority to be at doctor's appointments and things like that. I do think you make your choices, but I think that you can make your own calls and you can set the boundaries as long as you get the work done. And if you show up and do great work, you can do it on your terms. You could be doing it late at night, you could be doing it early in the morning. If you show up and get that job done and move things forward and get ahead of others, because you're coming through with the ideas and the work, then you will get to set the terms, and you get more and more flexibility, because I think great work is rewarded with that flexibility.
Chris?
I haven't actually noticed that a lot of the young women that report into me have any anger or resentment or seem to be struggling. If anything, I feel like they have figured it out. They're going on vacations to Croatia and Thailand and Vietnam, and I wish I had the courage and the ability to have done that when I was their age. I think they know what they want. I think for the most part they ask for what they want. I think my job is to find ways to give them what they want and ways to help them grow. I think there's going to be people who, when they have kids, want to stay home. There's going to be people who choose not to have kids and go to work. So let's take those two groups aside. For the people who think they want to do both, the only thing I would say is don't decide that the workplace won't accommodate your needs before you ask them to accommodate your needs. So, I think sometimes the advertising world is robbed of really great women because they either haven't seen somebody figure out in a way that they would want to model after, or they they assume it won't happen because the media always tells them that it won't happen. And I think you might be that trendsetter, and you have to figure out how it works for you, and then you need to go to your boss and say, this is what I think will work for me, and I bet you'll be surprised. I bet you'll be surprised.
Okay, Lisa.
I think that probably what I would say, the best advice I would say is just not to be afraid of making choices. I think that we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to have to deliver on everything every day. I always say to a lot of the women who work for me that look at your scorecard at the end of a week or a month, and if you've been able to get in the things that you think are important over a period of time, that's what counts. But you don't be afraid to make choices. I just think that that's being a little bit selfish is okay. It makes you better at the things that you end up doing.
Okay, we only went a minute and a half over, so I think we did all right. But it was great, I think, to hear from all of you. Thank you so much. It was good to hear about your tips, and hopefully it was helpful.